Hello, all my beautiful peeps. Thank you for tuning in again. And again, today we are going to do Eric Hovind. And at any rate, we're still doing the why is evolution junk science, which it's not junk science. Sorry, try again. I know you want to put it on the same vein as creationism, but it's not. I know you guys don't know what science is, but that's not my fault. Science is what the facts are, and the facts say that evolution happens and has happened in the past and will happen in the future. Oh, and by the way, will you people please stop conflating everything science with evolution because it's not. I have to thank you, Eric, you and the other young Earth apologists for keeping me in business doing these videos. But if you want a word of advice, you might want to quit with the young Earth apologetics because let me tell you a little secret. This is why people are leaving Christianity because you lie. And while you're thinking about it, if you're new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? And if you've already subscribed to me, make sure you're still subscribed because for some reason, YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Also, if you're new here, I'd like to thank you very much for giving me a chance. And for my fans and subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. You are the lifeblood of this channel. And now, with that, let's get on with the video.
So why are we calling evolution junk science? Why are we calling it a bankrupt worldview?
Good question. Considering, number one, it's not junk, it is pure science. Number two, it is not bankrupt. How can you even call science bankrupt? And number three, it is not a world view. You want to know why you're calling it that? Because you have to put it on the same as creationism.
Well, basically, we shared at the beginning, nobody times nothing equals everything. Science wants facts. Evolution has no facts.
Nobody times nothing equals everything. Give me a fucking break. That is not what the theory of evolution says, and you know it. In fact, that's not even what the Big Bang Theory says, and I think you know that as well. You people are liars. Contrary to what you idiots assert, the theory of evolution does, in fact, have facts backing it up. That is why you yourselves have to admit that evolution happens, at least to some ill defined extent, even though you know fully well that there is no difference. You people say, yes, evolution happens. Right there, that means you are fucking liars because you just said it doesn't happen. Now, taking that and then you say that it only happens to a certain extent. Prove it. If it only happens to a certain extent, it should be provable.
It's a theory that was cleverly disguised as the way things had to be, but it was not always believed. And many people today realize that science needs a little more than nobody times nothing equals everything.
Sorry about the glitch. That was on there and not mine. Anyway, you're right. The theory of evolution was not always believed. Do you know why that might be? It's because it wasn't even thought of until the 1800s. You're also right in saying that science needs a little bit more. Actually, science needs a lot more than just saying nothing times nobody equals everything. You know why? Because nobody believes that except you people. That's a straw man.
You want me to believe that 4.5 billion years ago in some primordial soup, some gaseous liquid, a spark ignited, some molecules coalesced, and a simple amino acid was formed? Well, amino acids are not simple, they're extremely complex.
4.5 billion years ago, um, that's when the Earth was formed. You're about a billion years or more off from when the first life form formed. That would be closer to 3.5 billion years ago. But anyway, um, you know, I'm not going to argue against your straw man, so let's go on. As for amino acids being able to form in a quote unquote primordial soup, we actually have scientific experimental evidence that that can indeed happen. Um, you might want to look up the Miller-Urey experiment. Oh, and by the way, more experiments since that time have reinforced the hypothesis that amino acids can indeed form in this way using different mediums and different energy sources. So, yeah, we do believe that. Why shouldn't we believe that? As for what we don't have evidence for, we do not have evidence for an extra universal being, nor do we have any evidence that it is your particular extra universal being, nor do we have evidence that this extra universal being can create anything. You know, argument from incredulity isn't really an argument, and it shows just how pathetic your argument really is if you have to lean on that. So I'll take reality's word over yours, and, you know, believe that.
You weren't there 4.5 billion years old.
Were you there? No, I wasn't there 4.5 billion years ago, and you weren't there 4.5 billion years ago. You weren't even there 6,000 years ago, and neither was your goddamn God. And even if you had been present 6,000 years ago, you sure as hell wouldn't have witnessed the creation of the universe, you dumb fuck. So stop using this worn out trope and tell Ken Ham to shove it.
And to think that amino acids could then morph into protein molecules, which are much more complex than amino acids.
So instead of sitting down with a biochemist and asking for a just for dummies version of how amino acids might turn into proteins, you just say, well, that's impossible, so God must have done did it. You do know that just because you say God done did it, you still need to explain how it happened, right? Oh, right. I forgot. You morons think the why and the how have the same answer. God done did it. Well, I have some news for you. No, even if there is a God and he did do this, whatever you think he did, you still have to explain it. And just because you're not curious doesn't mean others aren't.
And to think that protein molecules over vast eons of time could then become a simple single cell organism, such as an amoeba, this is impossible to fathom.
Well, your stupid God is impossible for me to fathom now. Now, see, I have just as much right to disbelieve in your God as you do in abiogenesis. That's not exactly the case now, is it? Because science puts forth plenty of options for abiogenesis, whereas you're just like, God done did it. That's not an answer. You know, each day that I spend out of your death cult is one more day I go away from your fucking death cult. And I cannot believe that I was ever stupid enough to believe it. And yes, I was that stupid. Unfortunately. Yeah, you made me that way, and then I smartened up.
We're not talking about mutations causing positive changes.
Define what you mean by positive change, please. If you mean changes that make a population more favorable to the environment that they find themselves in, yes, that is exactly what we are talking about because that is exactly what the theory of evolution states. If you mean positive change, as in any change in any environment, well, those changes may be positive or negative depending on the environment. For instance, let's take St. Bernards. They've got very long coats. Guess what? They do very well in Arctic weather. But put them in Mexico and see how well they fare there.
We're talking about mutations causing astronomical changes. Now, what is a mutation, you might ask? Well, a mutation is a coding error in the DNA multiplication or replication process. And almost always, mutations are negative. They don't change things for the better, they change things for the worse.
I suppose the only science book you've ever read is of pandas and people. Um, that's a creationist propagandist beast, right? I mean, it really has nothing whatsoever to do with science. There have been mutations that have been extremely beneficial. For example, humans have benefited greatly from the fusion of chromosome 2, which was a mutation. There is a family that has a mutation that protects against heart disease. Other people have mutations in which their bodies hang on to very little fat, meaning they are extremely muscular and can eat whatever the fuck they want. Yes, many mutations are harmful. I'll give you that. But there are also many mutations that are beneficial, and you do not want to see it because you are biased against evolution. You also seem to forget that evolution has had billions of years to work, and that makes a lot of difference in sorting out beneficial mutations and harmful mutations. That means generation upon generation upon generation. And since you forget that evolution works on populations, not individuals, that's exactly what we would.
My problem with evolution is 4.5 billion years is much too short to have the amount of positive mutations and increases of knowledge that would have to become you.
Do you know how utterly stupid that sounds? Probably not. So let me give you a clue on how utterly, ridiculously stupid that sounds. Apparently, you are unaware that if you start with a single celled organism, it turns into two, then four, then eight, then 16. And yes, viewers, I am perfectly aware that turns into is not exactly a good phrase to use, but I don't know what else to use with these idiotic people. So bear with me. Um, it doesn't take all that long for a single celled organism to turn into something completely different. Now, as to quote unquote you, I suppose you are unaware that a sperm cell meets an egg cell and then comes together and forms a blastocyst, which will then turn into an embryo, which turns into a fetus. And then from that one celled blastocyst, 9 months later comes a baby.
30 trillion cells from a single cell, which is exactly how you started. You started as a fertilized egg cell, one cell. We talk about the egg. How did that cell have knowledge to know when to become 2 cells, 4 cells, clusters of cells, to form the tiny buds that become your fingers, your arms, then to begin to form the organs? There was no I in that original single cell, but it had to be pre-programmed.
Oh my fucking God. I do not blame you for not knowing how cell differentiation occurs. That's not your field, but it can easily be explained. We've known how cell differentiation happens. It's not a secret. All you have to do is go to Google Scholar and type in cell differentiation. Of course, you're not going to do that because you have to have this idiotic argument that science has already addressed. It's no puzzle as to how cell differentiation occurs. We know how it occurs. I'm not going to get too far into it, but basically, um, cell differentiation does not occur until the cells get to wherever the fuck they're going, which makes sense. And the cells next to each other are in constant communication. To put it as simply as possible, um, cells secrete different kinds of growth factors, and they give these, they send these different growth factors to other cells, and that's how cell differentiation occurs. In fact, this is why stem cell research is so important, because stem cells are in the baby stages. They haven't differentiated yet. So if you put a stem cell in, say, a kidney, it'll become a kidney cell. You people are fucking morons. Now, there has been a lot of study in this area. The link above my head leads to one paper, but that's just one research paper of many. As you can probably tell, these people have no clue what the fuck they're talking about. They do the creationist gish gallop. The Big Bang is not evolution. Abiogenesis is not evolution. Can we please stick to evolution? But the only thing they have in their corner is the great creationist gish gallop. And this is one reason why I do not debate, period. It's because they like to gish gallop. Another reason, I'm just not good at it. Maybe next time we can actually stick to the topic of the theory of evolution. I highly doubt it, because sticking to one subject isn't a creationist strong point. But at any rate, we shall see But yeah, I did predict they would gish gallop. Also, my prediction that they would bring up things that have already been explained or are in the process of being explained did come true, because they brought up the nothing comes from nothing, which is absolutely false. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and also please comment down below. It does help the algorithm, and I love all of your comments, and I read all of your comments. Also, um, I have a channel on Odyssey now, link in the description. So if YouTube ever gets a bee in its ass about something and they cancel me, then you can find me over on Odyssey. And thank you very much for coming. Have a nice day and goodbye.